Okay, my name is Sjoerd Post. I'm from Innova Market Insights, and it's my great pleasure and honor actually to present to you here today. I think it's a very nice, or it's an excellent forum to be speaking at, and I'm especially honored because of all the big names that have presented here today before me. So I'm sharing the podium with a lot of interesting people, which honors me greatly to be here. I want to compliment you all. I think you chose a very smart session to join today, because after my presentation we're also going to have a snack and sweets tasting session. So it's definitely going to be worth your while. Today I'm going to talk to you about the rise of free from. And there's free from trends I'm going to discuss with you here today. Gluten, animal products, and in the last case, food additives, which is part of the clean label trend. So a bit of an introduction, actually, before I start about my company, Innova Market Insights. As mentioned before, it's a global market intelligence company solely focused on the food and beverage industry. So what we offer or what we do is we track innovations that have been launched into the market. It can be a new brand that has been launched, but it can also be like the examples mentioned before, a line extension or a new flavor launched by a food or beverage brand. We do this in over 70 different countries worldwide. As you can see, we also have a great presence here in Asia. And this results in globally around 250,000 new products every year that enter our database. So what happens is that people our employees actually buy the products, digitalize it into a file, and it's uploaded into our database. So if you work in innovation or any department in a food and beverage company, you can log in and actually see the products. So there's a lot of qualitative information for your category, but also you can do data analysis. So to find out, for example, which flavors are trending, what kind of new packaging formats are being introduced, but also what are your competitors doing, for example, in terms of ingredient formulation. So it's a very complete research tool. Actually, has many different facets. So it's a lot there are a lot of possibilities, and there's a lot of information you can get from our database and there's the surrounding platforms. So if you would like some more information, please don't hesitate to pull my arm and ask for some contact details. One of the main things actually we're well known for, and every year we introduce the top 10 trends. So you may have seen this posted before. Every year we work out 10 trends that we feel are going to influence the food and beverage market greatly in the upcoming year. So at the end of the year we introduce the top 10 trends for the following year. And one of them, as you can see here, the second trend is free from all, which is also the topic for today. So as I mentioned before, there are free from trends I want to go into a bit deeper. Free from allergy ingredients, free from animal-based ingredients, and free from food additives, aka the clean label trend. So we'll start with allergy ingredients. And I want to, because I'm talking here for sweets and snacks, I chose to focus specifically on gluten, free from gluten products. So here we see a global overview of the percentage of products with a gluten-free claim or a gluten-free positioning in the snacks category, of course, and then per region. So you can see also the differences globally in terms of where this trend is right now. So in North America, I think, and then Australia, two Western markets, gluten-free is really big in terms of claims tracked. You'll see here that 36% of all the products, all the snacks launches in 2015 already have a gluten-free claim, which is 21% more than in 2011. So that's the growth and penetration. Interesting, for example, in Western Europe, we're kind of following or looking what's North America doing and trying to keep up with the trends over there. But there, the penetration at this moment is 16%, and which is 8% higher than in 2011. But in other markets, like in Asia, for example, gluten-free is not that big of a topic yet, which makes it all the more interesting for me today to talk to you about, because it might be something to watch out for in the future. So here you see it's around 4% of all the products that we tracked in 2015. So gluten-free is an interesting topic. If we ask consumers why do you or what do you feel about gluten-free, you will get very different answers. And it's also kind of difficult to understand exactly why people are so interested in gluten-free. Because actually, gluten is the protein found in, for example, wheat. For 99% of the population, it's there's no problem with consuming gluten. But only 1% has a serious gluten allergy. And I want to emphasize the word gluten allergy or celiac disease, because that's when you really, your body heavily reacts to gluten, and it's really impossible for you to consume any gluten. And there's no cure, so it's something you're born with, you have your whole life. And the only cure or the only option is that you have is to avoid gluten altogether. But when we asked consumers, what do you feel about gluten-free products? Some will answer, oh, it's very important for me because I'm gluten intolerant. And intolerance is then different than allergy, because as you can see here, the percentage of people that identify themselves with this statement is much higher than 1%. There's also a lot of consumers that say, like, it's important because I feel it's just overall better for me if if the product is gluten-free. And of course, there's the third group that is not interested, or less called by the whole gluten-free positioning. And I want to look a bit deeper at these first two groups, like why would you feel more comfortable with a gluten-free product even though you don't have a gluten allergy? So if you go online, if you read magazines, if you maybe talk to one of your friends that is following a gluten-free diet, you'll understand a bit more about why people choose to avoid gluten. So as I mentioned before, there's a difference between gluten allergy and gluten intolerance. Gluten intolerance is more of a less hard to prove, or less clear to prove, like you have gluten intolerance. It's more about your own knowledge about your own body, what makes you feel comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable eating. So a lot of people now are learning for themselves that they have some difficulty with the consumption of gluten. So as a reaction, they choose to avoid it. And it has a lot to do with, I feel it's a bit of like self-medication. If you read an article, if you go online, you find a lot of these articles that will inform you, for example, the 10 warning signs that you are gluten intolerant. And I picked a few examples from that top 10 signs here to share with you. You may have skin problems, migraines, bloating of the stomach, or other digestion problems. You maybe feel like fatigue, tired all the time, or you have unexplained mood issues. Well, of course, it's very easy. If I read this list, I feel like, yeah, okay, sometimes I can have a bit of bloating, or maybe, I do feel tired a lot. So it's a bit, it's easy to link these kind of things that you might experience to, well, it could be because of the gluten I'm eating, which triggers a lot of people to actually have some negative association with gluten, or even to switch to, or assume for themselves that they are gluten intolerant and switch to a gluten-free diet. So it's a lot about how consumers for themselves perceive their reaction or their relationship with gluten. So here you see some examples of really international leading brands that have chosen to reformulate the product slightly in some cases and to make it gluten-free, but in general mostly to be more focus more on gluten-free as a claim, for example, front of pack. So if you see the product, rather than having a gluten-free claim on the back of the package, these brands chose to highlighted in the front of the pack, making it more premium part of your product positioning. So it's quite an interesting trend happening right now, especially in the cereal or the snacks category, but also, of course, in categories like bakery or cereals. So the next free-from trend I want to dive into with you is free from animal ingredients. So in Western countries, there's a bit of a growth in the number of people that consider themselves vegetarian or flexitarian, which means that you try to reduce the amount of meat that you eat as much as possible, or, for example, have one meat-free day every week. Or in some cases even vegans, the rise of vegans which don't eat any animal products, not even dairy. And in reaction to that, the markets or brands are also responding with sometimes reformulation of their products, but often just the mention or more specific mention of the fact that their product doesn't contain animal ingredients. So it will be a simple, this product is suitable for vegetarians, or this product is suitable for vegans. And we see here the growth in penetration for both categories, sweets and snacks. And you can see snacks grew from 11% in 2011 to 2015, 17% in 2015, products that have a vegetarian claim. And for sweets, it grew from 7% to 11% in 2015. So in both these categories, you see that this trend is ongoing. But it's more interesting also to look at what kind of specific claims can you see within this segment of the market. For example, some brands like Skittles and Jelly Belly not only mention that they're vegetarian, but also will highlight that the product is gelatin-free. Gelatin, of course, is an animal-based product, often used in jelly type of candy. So it's interesting to see that some brands are already communicating to a specific consumer group in the market that their product is gelatin-free. When you talk about snacks, there's also the category meat snacks, for example, beef jerky. And it's quite interesting to see some innovations of, in this case, a small company. It's a soy-based jerky. So it's a completely vegetarian alternative to beef jerky, hence the claim meat-free. And last is also in the bakery or snacks category, the increased use of egg-free claims. So again, can be based on a reformulation or the product was already egg-free. But it's interesting to see that more brands are more often communicating about the fact that their product is egg-free. And within this egg-free segment, there's also an interesting race of, or alternatively to egg-free, we see more products claiming made with free-range eggs, which is a bit more animal-friendly. Last example I want to highlight here, one of the reasons you can also avoid animal-based ingredients, and I think that's particularly interesting for this for the region in Asia, for example in Asian countries where the percentage of Muslims is much higher, is in order to have a halal claim. And I think some of you might know this example is one of the most famous examples, I think, in the sweets category of Haribo, especially for this market of halal, reformulating its product from pork gelatin to specifically beef gelatin. So this switch, and of course this certification allowed them actually to launch a product much more successful, or introduce the product much better in Muslim countries. So yeah, these were the insights I wanted to give you on free from animal-based ingredients. We'll move to the last trend, free from food additives. Also known, of course, as the clean label trend in the food and beverage industry. So here we see also, just as before, the increase actually of no additives and preservatives claims in both categories, sweets and snacks. So in sweets, it grew from 6.3% to 8.3%, and in the snacks category from 12.3% to 16%. And if I say no additives, preservatives, you can think about those claims like this product contains no artificial colorings, no artificial flavorings, or no preservatives were added, or no flavor enhancers were used in this product. So yeah, this is really a clear indicator that this the clean label trend is really still ongoing in the food and in the sweets and snacks categories. So what is driving this clean label trend? If we ask consumers, would you appreciate a product that is formulated with only familiar ingredients, also known as kitchen cupboard ingredients? So rather than ingredient list with some hard to recognize ingredients or a very long ingredient list, a lot of consumers actually appreciate products that have a cleaned up ingredient list with as less ingredients as possible, and all ingredients that they're more or less familiar with, or that they feel like if you read the name you understand what it is. As you can see, in all countries surveyed, the response rate was higher than 50%, especially high in the US, but also in China. 65% of consumers indicate that they feel more or they appreciate and feel more comfortable with these kind of clean label positioned products. So if we look a bit in the past, how did this trend particularly start? In Europe, it started actually mainly with the reduction of E-numbers. E-numbers were introduced as a sort of codes to make ingredient lists for one smaller, but also for actually to help consumers see which ingredient this is. So it doesn't have a long, complicated technical name anymore. It's just a simple code that you as a consumer or a person interested in this food product can look up and see exactly what food product was added. So it was introduced with the best intentions, but after a while people felt like, okay, those codes, they look very technical, and they associated it with hard, heavy, or highly artificial food additives. So in response to that, we see a lot of brands and companies over the years have changed that on their ingredient label and actually cleaned it up, took out all the E-numbers and replaced it with the original names in most cases. You can see the percentage from 2005 to 2014 dropped by 7% of brands that use the E-numbers on their ingredient list. So here's an example actually from Nestle, from Smarties. In 2005 they used the E-numbers just to indicate which colors they used. And in 2016, when you will buy the product this year, you will see that it doesn't contain the E-numbers anymore. It just has the actual name of the food colorings. But this is only one way, of course, to make your product fit more into the clean label trend. There's also a lot of use of marketing words, trend words. And here you see a bit of overview of the latest trendy words to describe your product in order to make it a bit more clean label. Paleo, for example, paleo diet is that where you go back to basics and try to consume as least processed food as possible. But also things like raw, whole scents, handmade is very popular, handmade and handcrafted. But also things that are a bit more like, like honest is a very good example, wholesome. Often you will see products now that have a claim like made with real ingredients. So these are all, of course, soft claims, not hard claims, but they give you a bit of the sense like this product is made in a wholesome way with ingredients that are natural and familiar to you. And it's not very highly processed, so in its total, it's also better for you. Another part of the clean label trend, which I think is very important, is trust. Is there enough trust between you as a brand or you as a company and the consumer? And often I see that this is a big advantage for actually smaller companies, because it seems that if you are a small startup company, you have a very personal story for your consumers, there's already a bit more trust than if you're, at least in Western countries, than if you're a global food producer such as McDonald's. So a lot of consumers, if you mention McDonald's, will associate them also with high fat or high salt, high sugar, and highly processed food. So I think it's very interesting. McDonald's is a very interesting example, especially in the last years, because they've really been working on this perceived image consumers have of their brand and of their food products. So what they did in Canada, which I think is very interesting, they launched a campaign and they welcomed consumers to ask them very difficult questions directly via Twitter, and they made the promise, and of course I cannot guarantee that in 100% of cases they displayed and answered all the questions, but they made the promise that they would answer every one of those questions. So if you go to the website where they displayed all the questions asked via Twitter by consumers to McDonald's, you also see questions like, why does your food not rot when you leave it out on the table for days or weeks? Somebody made some pictures. You will just see the product is drying and shrinking, but it's not rotting. There's no bacteria or mold or growing on it or anything. So yeah, it's a bit of a hard question or direct question, of course, to get for such an international, well-known food company. But they choose then to just display it and give their answer actually below it. And often they will, for example, invite a scientist to help them answer the question, or they will make a little video that explains the question a bit better. In the case of why does your food not rot? Yeah, the answer was quite simple. Yeah, if you leave it out, it will dry. Of course, that's for most. That's also true for bread. If you leave it outside on the table, it will just dry. But if you leave it, for example, in a fridge or in a bag, then it's the moist is right, and then the atmosphere is good for the bacteria to grow. So it really depends on the circumstances. And all these kinds of questions, like what kind of ingredients do you put on your beef, to also questions like why does the burger always, which is a question that always bothered me, why does the burger always look so amazing on the picture, but when I buy it and I get it, it looks totally different. All these kind of questions, they're inviting consumers to ask, and they're challenging themselves, of course, to come up with the right answers. Another issue in food is, which is also relevant to sweets and snacks, is origin. Where does the food product come from, and also specifically maybe where do some of those ingredients that are in the product come from? So in 2013 we had this big horse meat scandal in Europe, which triggered a lot of discussion. People wanted to know, like, how does this work? You know, how can we get more information or transparency on the origin of ingredients when I buy a product? So it's now actually regulated that if you have a processed food product that contains meat, also the origin of the meat has to be stated on the label, which initially is also a huge advantage for smaller companies that were already doing that. And I gave you here some examples of two meat snack products that also indicate exactly where their ingredient comes from. And it's, naming the origin, being able to tell the story where your ingredient comes from, and why you chose that region, or what's so special about this ingredient, or this region where the meat comes from. Also gives it, of course, a bit of a premium appeal, and it also builds a bit more trust between you as a brand and the consumer. Here, exactly, actually I forgot to mention, here you see the map of where, in this case with the horse meat scandal, what all the steps are to actually buy and sell meat in Europe from one party to the other. As you can see, it's very complicated. And that's, I think, the whole issue that kind of started this discussion and this interest of consumers in origin of ingredients. So I've highlighted some of the key aspects in the clean label trends, and how you can think about how to position your product in a more natural or less processed way. I also want to talk a bit about what might be the future of this clean label trend. And I'm going to share 3 examples with you here I find these brands very interesting. That's why I want to share them with you today, because they've really taken this whole natural food or clean label thinking about food sort of to the next level. I think in these cases they have taken a very common food or snacks or sweet product, very popular, very common product, and sort of completely rethought it, redesigned it in a way that it's more close to more natural, more back to basics, so to speak. So what do I mean? For example, Bear, which is a confectionery brand in the UK, they make all these kinds of candy made from real fruit. So they took a very familiar concept, jelly candy, for example, with a fruit flavor, which is amazingly popular, of course, and then sort of reinvented it or redesigned it in a way like, how can we make this in a more natural way, or as natural as possible? So they take fruit products, apples, strawberries, whatever. They process it, they cut it, and then they actually boil it or simmer it. Actually, it's actually cooked at a very low temperature, but for a very long time. So slowly all the water dehydrates, and you're left with a very pure fruit puree, which then they dry, and then they cut it into pieces. So they have small bear claws, for example, a small candy for kids, and they also have these roll-ups, for example, also a very tasty product. I tasted the products on several occasions. It tastes pretty good, and also it has a real fruity taste. But of course, the texture is completely different than the candy I showed before, for example, from Haribo, because it's really fruit, so it's also a bit gritty, and the texture is not as perfect and jelly as other sweets are. So, but what I think is, why I think it's so interesting is because they took a very familiar concept and sort of redesigned it according to their principles of natural food. Another example in a different category is is the brand Just Nuts. They make cereal bars, snack bars, but also some on-the-go snacks, snack nuts. But they started with the bar actually, which is cereal bars and snack bars, of course, very popular, very convenient, but are often seen as it is a nice indulgence, but it's also very high in calorie, and it's probably not all too good for you if you eat it too often. So, and it's of course slightly processed. So they rethought about, okay, how can we make a convenient snacking bar that you can bring anywhere with you on the go, gives you enough satiety, gives you a full feeling after eating it, just like a regular bar. But it's also, of course, very indulgent and also very natural. So they choose this to create this bar, which is made mostly with dates, as you can see on the ingredient list. The ingredient list is very simple, very familiar ingredients, very natural ingredients, and the dates they actually make into a little paste, and then add the ingredients, so it forms a complete bar. It's a good product. Has a much more better feel of like this is a better for you alternative to regular candy bars, and it's also convenient, easy to take anywhere. Very simple ingredient list. They also extend their brand to other snacking products that have a better, more natural and healthier image. But I really think that their core products, the bars, are very successful reinvention of the standard snack or cereal bar. Last example I want to share with you is in the chewing gum category. Chewing gum, if you think about it, it always feels a bit artificial maybe, or chemical, or at least not very natural. But of course, it's a great product, so it's also very popular. And what this company did, Simply Gum, is they looked at all the ingredients and they also started from scratch. Like, okay, which core ingredients do we need, and how can we make it as natural as possible in the case of chewing gum. So if you go to the website, you will see this clear image of all the ingredients that they used for each product. And it's a bit different, of course, than the previous examples, because in order to make a chewing gum, you need some ingredients that, most consumers will not be naturally familiar with. For example, the base of natural chicle base, which is actually derived from trees in the same manner as rubber. So as long as you're open about these ingredients and you share the story of where they come from, or what they do actually in the product, what is their function, you get a completely different product experience than regular chewing gum. And also the packaging, I think, in this case, basically plays a huge role. They have a very clean, white, and simple packaging design, highlighting the flavoring ingredients, which I think is very nice. And again, this shows, like, I think maybe the future, or the further evolution of the whole clean label trend into these reinvented food products. All right, this was my these were the insights I wanted to share with you here this afternoon. Thank you all very much for listening, and of course joining this presentation. Thank you. 谢谢。
好，感谢斯约德先生。我们现场有哪位朋友
Thank you very much.
斯约德先生进行交流
Any question?
Thank you very much for sharing this free-form trend in the global scape. And actually, I have a question. In the snack and the sweet this industry, do you see some other free forms, for example, lactose-free? This trend is in sweet and also in the this snack section. And also, how about in the food industry, entire food industry, how about the lactose-free? I think this probably is quite relevant to China market. As you probably know, this reason is lactose intolerance issues in this industry. So what do you think about this lactose-free in the global level and also in China level? And my second question is how to drive this, for example, lactose-free or another free form to grow in this market? Thank you.
Good question. I think lactose-free has a lot of commonalities with gluten-free, except that in the overall percentage of people that are lactose intolerant or have a lactose allergy is much higher than gluten. Especially here, actually in Asia and also in Latin America. And I mentioned Latin America because what always has surprised me in both the differences between both regions, if you look at the Latin American market, milk products will, in most cases, have a lactose-free claim, or at least every brand in the milk category in Latin American countries will have a lactose-free option. It's a much more important and prominent positioning in that region or in those countries. Whereas here in Asia, I think the percentage of consumers with that cannot properly digest lactose, the percentage is the same, but the amount of communication on lactose is not the same at all. It's hard to find those kind of examples. So I cannot really explain to you why. For me, it seems an obvious, huge opportunity, especially in the dairy category. And of course, there's a big overlap between dairy products and snacks. You could consider yogurt as a good snack, of course. But the question remains why lactose-free is not so big here in China, for example. I think it has a lot to do, in the same sense as with gluten, how you say it, education of the consumers, like how informed are they about this topic. So a similar matter as in gluten a couple of years ago, and lactose as well in North America and Western Europe. Once people start writing about it, once people start talking about it, you have a huge opportunity for the lactose-free market here in China.